All right, we're back live on the marketplace floor here at Forrester B2B Summit 2025. Been an amazing couple days, and just thanks again to the Forrester PR team for making this possible. We are coming up on interview number 20, I think, across a variety of different people here. So excited to have with us right now Jessie Johnson. She's principal analyst at Forrester, has some amazing research she's unveiling and talking about here around how AI agents are impacting and benefiting B2B go-to-market teams. Jessie, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
It's a packed couple days. We're here sort of midway through the afternoon on day 2. We're joking that you need a handler. I think you're the of all the analysts we've interviewed so far, they got you doing a lot of work here in a lot of places.
Yep. It's a very good busy for us.
Yeah. If you're going to come all the way down here, if we're going to spend this time together just once a year, let's make the most of it. And I was saying before, kudos to the team for really leaning in on interactivity on the agenda this year. I think, a lot of conferences you go to, and it can be good insights, but it's smart people talking to you, not with you. And so to have the birds of a feather sessions at the breaks, to have analyst-led discussions, which are sessions about a topic that previously would have been probably just a PowerPoint deck talking to you, and okay, thank you, bye. These were more interactive. And it's a great way to get people in the audience to engage with their peers, to share everything from best practices to cautionary tales. And I assume that was very intentional in terms of the agenda.
Absolutely. To help the attendees make those connections, to learn from each other, not just what works, but what doesn't. And more importantly, how are they measuring success and what does that actually mean for their business? And behind that, what comes next? After we reach this milestone, where are we headed beyond that?
And I've noticed just in the last couple of days talking to, operational marketers that are like going back to the trenches, so to speak, and having to do the hard work that is modern go-to-market. They're willing to talk about what's not working. They're willing to talk about the fact that this is not a linear process and is never a straightforward or fully moving forward process. And I think sometimes we learn more from the cautionary tales and the failures than we do the successes, because we learn what not to do, and that's a building block for being more likely to be consistently, predictably successful moving forward. And that certainly applies to AI, as we all start to think about not just random acts of AI experimentation, but really truly integrating AI as an ongoing perennial component of our go-to-market motions. You're talking here about AI agents, not just AI and building, writing copy, but true agents that are really impacting and driving B2B marketing performance. Let's start from the beginning. Let's not assume everyone knows what an AI agent is. So what's your definition of that to start?
An AI agent is something that has advanced reasoning and decision-making capabilities. They can retain context from, say, one interaction or one job to the next. And really, if we think about, what is the difference between that agent and, say, an AI tool, it is that reasoning capability, but also the ability for the agent to act on what it's decided, but to provide that transparency back to the human as to how it came to that conclusion, why it took that action. A more succinct definition as we think about the AI agent versus agentic AI. So we keep hearing those terms and oftentimes interchangeably. So an AI agent is a business application of an agentic AI system.
Got it. I've gotten to the point where I think this is really exciting. I think this is going to be a leap in performance and just an impact for a lot of us. There are many people that are still on the other side of that and terrified when they hear that these robots are not just creating semi-decent pictures, but are now thinking and reasoning and able to make decisions. And it becomes a bit of an existential threat, to be honest, for a lot of people. I'm sure you hear this quite a bit. How do you coach B2B marketers to think about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. One thing that we hear about agents is no human intervention required, right? We see that kind of messaging everywhere. And it's just not true, at least at this stage of the game. So we're going to need our humans, our subject matter experts from within an organization to help train and onboard that agent so that when it does act on our behalf, it's doing so with context of the business, of the customer, and even the best ways of working. We want that, our best business development rep to be providing that feedback and that oversight to that agent to try and emulate those behaviors that are top performing.
I find that when companies and marketing leaders actually break down the jobs to be done from AI agents, it actually helps sort of land the plane in terms of what role they're going to play. And people go from being cautious and fearful to being very optimistic.
Yep.
Because AI agents are taking over the jobs that none of us really want to spend time doing anyway, that you really don't want your BDRs spending time doing, that you don't want any of the people in your marketing team doing, you just need done. And if we think about the past and think about the things that we think of that computing and the internet is just, we take it for granted, this is a different leap. It may be bigger, it may be more substantial, but it certainly includes things that we took for granted before that we had to do ourselves.
Yep.
And now we're at that point again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the appealing things here as we think about AI agents is that we're actually going to learn a lot from those agents
Right.
as they work versus, say, other disruptive technology that's kind of come into the picture along the way.
Yep.
So if we think about the agentic capabilities, so an agentic AI agent can actually provide us with how it arrived at its decision. So kind of that full transparency. I was thinking about doing it this way, but then here's my output and here's why. So that's a real opportunity as we think about where's the human in the future, helping the human and the AI actually get smarter together.
I've seen some companies start to build what we traditionally would have called an org chart, and they're calling it a accountability chart.
Yep.
And so you think about it more as the jobs to be done. So you still say, okay, I've got to create demand, I've got a brand function, I've got to do some creative, I got some ops work to do. And you break down the jobs to be done in those areas, right? And the job needs to be done by something or someone. And so you end up with a chart that if you're looking at it sort of horizontally, from left to right, at the bottom of the chart are things that we need machines to do for us. Some of them machines have done for a while. Some of them are AI embedded in many of the tools and vendors we see on the marketplace in front of us. But some of them are going to be these AI agents that we're going to be able to train and that are taking over that work. And this is where the rubber meets the road for companies that do this, because I think they look at that and say, not only I fully accept them doing that work, I can't wait for them to take over these other things as the technology improves.
Yep, to expand their scope of responsibility and the processes that they can actually improve for us and the goals that they can execute against. I think the idea of using an agent for demand generation is super interesting because all of the different components that go into that, it's insights, it's action, it's creating these very compelling and contextually relevant experiences for our prospects. So there's a lot of different layers there that we need either, some kind of a super agent that can handle all of that, or we need a bit of a team of agents that can accomplish that work by working together and passing their outputs back and forth, whether that's more customer prospect insights or maybe content that they've generated on the fly to fuel some of the digital experiences that will ultimately fill pipeline.
We're talking live here on the marketplace floor at Forrester B2B Summit 25 with Jesse Johnson, Principal Analyst at Forrester, trying to just make people feel a little safer about AI agents coming along. And it's similar to me, like to when AI first came out and everyone didn't know what it was or how to start it. And the advice from him was just like, get in there and do it, right? Just get in there. Like, think anything you need to do, see if the AI can do it. And early on, it's like it can't do most of it. And then it's going to do things in an awkward way. And increasingly, it's doing more and more things better. And I think for those that have leaned into it the most, they find it supercharges their productivity. And it really allows them to focus on the more uniquely human elements of go-to-market. I think, AI Agent 1.0 was like, we can get rid of the BDRs. We don't need them. We have AI agents that can do that. We can get rid of our copywriters because AI is just going to do it. AI Agent 2.0 was realizing, okay, well, that's a little too far. We still need humans to do part of this work. We are still, unless robots still are robots, our lizard brains still want to talk to each other. And more faster, cheaper content is not improving the experience for the buyer. Right. So if we can find that right insight, but then deliver that in a uniquely human way, it maximizes machine and human along the way.
Absolutely. And if we think about even the content kind of creation production use case, we've succeeded in turning a lot of content creators into editors. Right. That increase in volume has increased the need for that human oversight. Right. So while we're able to kind of focus on the things that are uniquely human, right? Creativity, empathy, communication, all of those things that our customers, our human customers, we'll
Yeah.
talk about the agent as customer maybe in a later podcast,
Yeah.
but those are the elements that aren't going to go away,
Right.
but rather they'll be amplified by our work with agents. So
Yep.
if we think about using the agents to actually improve our ability to solve problems, not just get that quick output, but the thinking that goes into that problem solving, and to innovate in areas of the business to explore maybe use cases or applications of a product that just haven't occurred to us before, not because we're mere mortals, but because, it just kind of brings about the ability to think a little bit further outside of the box.
In terms of thinking outside the box, like what are some places for people to go and get ideas, prompts, scenarios to really help see what an agent can do? Because we can talk about it theoretically, but what are some places? I mean, I know clearly within Forrester, within your content, but like how do people learn from others, and where can they go
Yeah.
to get some real life examples of what's working?
Yep. Fantastic question there. I would say actually start with your professional network. Start with the humans that you're already talking with,
Yep.
collaborating with, that are trusted advisors, either for your own purchasing journey. We talked about the buying network at the conference, or it's somebody that you trust for career advice, for advice on technology implementation. So
Yep.
start with those human conversations. From there, just do a little bit of experimentation. Go to an agent platform and give it a few instructions and see what it can actually produce for you,
Yep.
and how you can leverage and learn from the agent's reasoning, how it arrived at its conclusion and its output. It'll really help to think sideways and differently about the problems or the opportunities that we have. And I think there'll be a lot of discovery in that regard along the way. So that agent's going to come back with a few things that maybe haven't occurred to the mere mortals yet.
Let's fast forward to a year from now. We're sitting here at Forrester B2B Summit 2026, and
Yep.
we're clearly going to be talking about AA agents again. What do you anticipate will be some of the jobs to be done that today's AI cannot do, but tomorrow's AI is more likely to be able to pick up?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in a perfect world, we'd have that AI agent maybe delivering some of our presentations, so
Oh,
we
yeah.
can spend more face-to-face time
Yep.
with our attendees and our sponsors. I think what we're going to see too, a really interesting application of AI agents, is this idea of an agent as maybe a software or digital experience
Yep.
end user. So
Yep.
what do we need to do for that agent end user persona from a design perspective,
Yeah.
when it comes to the website, or even when it comes to a product, a software product. So I think that's going to be another really interesting kind of area to explore.
Awesome.
I think we'll see also the amount of insights, rich insights, deep knowledge and understanding of our buyer that we're just scratching the surface of when we're using these AI agents. I think a lot of companies, a lot of marketers, a lot of sellers are really going to kind of latch on to those insights and incorporate them more, not just in the agent interactions, but in
Yep.
other areas of the business.
Yep.
Because of that agent, we learned this. So we're going to use that to create uplift in this other effort or initiative that we have going on.
Is Fargo starting to thaw out a little bit?
It is not. No, we are actually we're in a blizzard right now.
Oh,
so I
man.
am so happy to be here in Phoenix.
Normally you come down here to Phoenix and it's like surface of the sun hot, right?
Yeah.
And this week, like yesterday, it was like 70, today's like 65. I'm really happy. Like it's nice
It is
outside.
beautiful.
It's not too hot. I don't know what it's doing in Seattle, but I'm guessing raining and crappy. Yeah, well, whether it's raining, blizzard, wherever. But Jesse, thank you very much for being here. I know you're super busy. I know we talked about you now have to go either upstairs or downstairs. No one really knows.
Nobody knows. I'm going to hopefully figure that out along the way. I need my handler. Maybe that's
You
another
need a
role
handler.
for the AI agent.
Get
next
some
year.
water. Keep hydrating. There's Advil at the 6 Cents booth across
Yes.
from us. Just get what you need. Jesse, thanks so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Matt.